Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast. Luke just tried to take my fly swat away from me. He says summer is over, but sunny skies were back in this stage 4. Finally, pretty much a straightforward day. I live for days like this. And listen, I love cycling, love covering every race. Don't get me wrong. Dream job, but some days I just got to watch Ander Okamika getting an uncontested breakaway and have a nap during the week. I can't be watching chaos every day. And it left Andorra la Vella down to Tarragona, nailed on sprint stage. We'll talk about the finish in a little bit, but it was a technical finish with a corner and about 200 meters to go and an uphill nasty drag. 2 climbs before, cat 3 points, but no, they didn't matter. There was no way they were going to be too difficult for any of the sprinters here. You went down to the start, Benji. What did you see? Who did you see? Anything interesting at the start?
Quintana was there. Quintana was there. You're right. Quintana was there, mostly hanging about at the UAE car and bus, talking much in a lot. So interesting. I don't know. I don't know if there's a rumor there or not. But anyway, when it comes to the rest of the people, spoke to Thomas de Gent, Rune Gergots, to all the Belgians actually, a bit to Cor Vos and so forth. So just in that shape, Leonard van Eetveld, but all in all, I think my most interesting conversation was, 2 days ago in the rainy Mataro stage where I spoke to Patrick Lefevre. I spoke about the Remco interview. And I asked him the question, what do you think about the Remco interview? And before I give you the answer, what did you expect him to answer?
Oh, because he retweeted it. So I just thought he'd be like, oh, he must have approved of it. So I just thought he'd be like, yeah, it was a nice interview. That was what I was expecting, but nothing more. I don't expect him to be something like, oh, you did a fantastic job, boys. Great. I always expected something muted.
I had a quite awkward conversation, I would say, because I basically asked the question and he responded with, well, a fun story. He starts the story and he says, well, I was in my bed. I put my earphones in because I didn't want to bother my wife as she was trying to sleep. And then half an hour later, while I was listening to the podcast, half an hour later, she woke me up because I fell asleep.
Which I don't know why you would do that. Isn't that like, I'd be so angry if someone did that to me, wake me up, be like, oh, you've fallen asleep. It's like, isn't that the point? Well, some people, side note, some people listen to the LRCP on like loud with their phone in a shared bed, which is wild. I support that behavior entirely. Yeah. Maybe you're trying to get your partner into cycling.
It's a new method of couples counseling.
Yeah, listening to us. See, look, there's a flyer right here. You think they were gone, but
you're attacking me, dude.
See you later. Anyway, that's Benji's story. I hope I didn't destroy his MacBook. I've got a little bit too much energy after my siesta. Breakaway. Ander Okamika. He's always in these breakaways. This is what he does for Burgos Biace. David Gonzalez for Caja and Sepulveda for Lotto Destiny. He's shared, I think, lead in the KOM jersey before this stage. He wanted to take the extra points on the 2 category 3s. They got in the break, I presume uncontested. Alpecin with DSM kept it at, I don't know. Alpecin keep breakaway gaps really short, so they kept it at like 130 to these guys who were not trying. Well, they were trying, but they're not trying to win the stage. They're here for TV exposure. They're here for the KOM points. Very clear why they're there. Confidence didn't pace, Benji, but I guess you don't have to. Like, or UA, why would you pace if Alpecin are keeping a TV break in check at 130?
Exactly, and let's be honest about it. We knew the sprint field going into the stage was not great, and that's saying it lightly. But when it comes to sprinting over the last year and a half, Groves is probably the one on the start list with the most prestige reputation. And at the start this morning, most of the team managers told me, okay, Caden Groves is the rider we are looking at for this stage. Okay. So it was pretty clear that he was the marked man for everybody and that they probably weren't going to try and help Alpecin and that the pressure was on Alpecin in a similar fashion than in the Tour when they have Philipsen, for example, even though other teams were kind of helping Alpecin during that Tour de France, I would say. But did you mention the break yet, actually?
Yeah, I mentioned it.
Ooh, the important boys, Okamika.
Yeah.
I love Okamika. Straight up, every single time he's in the break, I love it. But then nothing kind of happened.
Nothing happened. They just, Sepulveda took the KOM points. Alpecin just basically, reeled it in. And we knew we were going to have a sprint. And no one, you got to these climbs, you can barely even see the first one. And that's why, these pretty wide, smooth roads in Catalonia, south of Catalonia, going down to Tarragona. Speaking of Catalonia, we didn't mention the olive oil incident.
Yeah.
So there was apparently police yesterday, not today, the news broke today, the police, Spanish police, arrested 4 people who were trying to douse the peloton with olive oil from a bridge. And there was a photo going around of like a hose over a bridge.
Firstly,
yeah, bizarre.
400 liters of olive oil they were planning to drop on the riders as they passed under the bridge.
400 liters. Hey, it can't be extra virgin olive oil because that's expensive these days. But you can get cheap vegetable oil in Spain. In Spain, you know, if you were going to buy cheap vegetable oils, so it might not be that expensive if they bought it wholesale. Maybe they got a discount somewhere. Certainly, they would get some. Yeah, but 400 liters, how they trucked that in, and what their plan was, I don't know. What they were trying to achieve, I don't know. It seems, you know, you can. We've seen a lot of protests where people glue themselves to a road, or where they obstruct the race in some way, particularly with cycling, or in the broader social sphere protests where people spray paint a building, or they throw baked beans on a piece of art that's protected, or is not even the real piece of art, and the art itself doesn't get damaged. And
this is different.
You can debate about that, the merits of those, etc. This is like, I don't really care what your objective is. Trying to make people doing their job, 200 of them, crash at 60 kilometers an hour is unacceptable.
That's arguably attempted murder at some point.
Well, it's definitely like, you could cause €1 million worth of damage. You could end somebody's career. You could kill somebody. You could kill somebody if they're going 60 kilometers an hour and suddenly they're riding on. So just ridiculous. And I hope they get put in prison. So good luck to them. Anyway, good on the police for foiling that happening. But yeah, break court, positioning battle starts. I would love to one day, if I'm super bored in the off season, I'll make a video doing a side-by-side facial expression analysis of the peloton in this stage at 15Ks to go versus Tour de France stage 3, 15Ks to go. Because it was, to me, it looked pretty chill. We're on super wide roads. It was going to be technical in the finish in Tarragona, where, like, that's the thing, right? Everyone's fresh. Everyone's on these wide Spanish highways. And then the last 3Ks, when you get into the beach at Tarragona, it all of a sudden gets narrow. But for the most part, it was pretty chill. There weren't any crashes. And then suddenly, Ineos come to the front, Benji. There was an intermediate sprint. Bahrain then tried to line it out. Maybe there was some crosswind. Ineos start drilling it. Not at 4Ks to go. We're talking like 8, 9Ks to go.
Exactly. Filippo Ganna came to the front, and I won't steal your take. This was your take during the race as we were watching, and you said, okay, Filippo Ganna, he's now using his energy, keeping Thomas to the front with 10-ish kilometers to go, roughly that area, maybe a bit more, maybe a bit less. And that energy, if he attacks every single sprint stage with a late flyer, that was your take, then there's a solid chance that he could get away and take a stage, because the sprinters are not gigantic here. There's a lot of sprint teams that have interest, but they're also putting all the eggs on.
The last man today was Ivo Oliveira.
Exactly. Like, no offense to Ivo Oliveira.
No, he's a nice rider, but he's not Jonas Ricard van der Poel.
Exactly. So the sprint trains are extra paper tigers, because in the Tour they were paper tigers. What are they now? Are they paper cats?
They're just a piece of paper. And if you put a bit of water on it, it'll disintegrate and wash away. So that's what they are. Yeah, I mean, I think it's sad to see. And listen, you can say, oh, well, you know, let's be realistic. Like, G lost 50 seconds in 2Ks yesterday.
Yeah.
Okay, like, I even think, unless you have yellow and it's like week 3, and we're talking the Vuelta, it's not the Tour de France, it's a straight highway. And I know there was a crash afterwards, but I just don't see the upside or the risk reward or the benefit to, even if G comes 5th, I don't care. Even if he comes 3rd, I don't care. Like, he already lost loads of time yesterday. Use Ganna. Also, come up later. You've moved up way too early for starters. And when there was the crash, Ineos had already been folded over, which was before 3Ks to go. It's not like they did it perfectly and hit 3K to go banner with Ganna and everyone in front. So maybe they're trying to split in the crosswinds, but yeah, it's just, okay, Ineos, you can say a lot, oh, well, the riders aren't performing as well as other riders. Yeah, maybe compared to the peak years, but also that's true, but they have to adapt.
Yeah.
They have to say, we don't have Froome favourite for the race, this Grand Tour. We don't have Bernal favourite for the Giro of the year 2021. We've got to get the wins elsewhere, and Ganna's super strong. And as you said, play the numbers. If he does it every sprint stage, he will win one. He won in Wallonie the other day.
Even his sprint this year has been good. So he could...
With this corner too.
He could podium a sprint in this race.
Dude, he could have podiumed today.
Exactly.
Is Edward Turns that much of... no offense to Edward Turns, and I've been on the Edward Turns, why does Little Trek hate Edward Turns? My one of one soapbox for the last year and a half, but is Milan Menton and Edward Turns, do they really have that much more 20, 30 seconds power under the bonnet than Ganna? No. Like, he could... And with this corner today, if he hits that right or hits that early, especially with other people crashing in it, who knows? So, yeah, I just thought it's so conservative. I can't believe it. And it's funny because, but before the race, Thomas said on the podcast, everyone will get their own chances to go for stages. And then it's like, I laughed. When I heard, I laughed because I was like, when you see the Netflix documentary, which could have been edited out of context, but then I remembered the scene where from 22 Tour de France when they're like, Cummings says Pidcock wants to go on the breakaway tomorrow on Alpe d'Huez, and Thomas is like, what for? And Cummings is like, to win the stage. And so maybe they'll change it up in later sprint stages. Maybe he'll come back and win the race and I look stupid and they kept him safe today. I don't know.
I'd argue that Grand Tour Ineos is kind of feeling like classics Quickstep, and they're not adapting to the new atmosphere surrounding them in that sense, because Quickstep kind of evolved throughout the classic season where they started to adapt more towards RVV at least to anticipating the race with Asgreen, with Merlier in the breakaway. And I feel like Ineos needs to also transition and realize that they're not the top dogs anymore. And Arensman I do believe in, as in yesterday was not necessarily his best kind of terrain. I'd argue the harder races will fit him better. But I reckon a top 7-ish, top 8-ish I believe in.
I think Arensman can do really well and the later stages could be good for him. And he was even good on Hazellanas, I thought, or I can't remember last year. So, I'm not saying they can't get a good result. I'm saying that, maybe UAE go for Milano on this stage. They go with Soler and Vine yesterday. UAE are also trying to podium / win the race, and they sort of diversify a little bit. That's all I'm saying. Let Hajduk and Castro position and Freyler position. Position into the 3K. That's fine. Let Ganna take a fly.
Crash.
Yep.
Let's talk about it. There was a crash in the peloton with about, I think 4 kilometers to go. So before the 3 kilometer mark. So the riders that crash here will lose their time if they don't end up in the front group. If it causes a split in the peloton, that split will also be counted on paper at the finish line. Now that crash happens and there is a Jumbo rider involved. I've since found out it's Kelderman.
Yeah.
So I don't know how the crash happened. Luke knows how the crash happened, but he's busy.
Well, there was a highway off ramp to the right hand side, and the highway was also swinging left a bit. People came together. Someone braked in the front third of the peloton. That's not where the crash was. Yeah. The domino effect behind caused the crash. So, like the Cavendish crash, exactly the same. Someone braked ahead, and then the domino effect. He got caught out, and it was another sprinter today crashing, not as badly, but a favourite for the stage. A finish that would have been very, very good from Coquard out of the stage. I think he was back on his bike looking okay. But Kelderman he lost nearly 4 minutes. So he finished the stage, but how banged up he is, I don't know. Hessink came in with him. It might have been Hessink then crashed, but I think it probably was Kelderman.
Buitrago finished.
Buitrago finished as well.
Volvicar was involved too.
Okay, so that's another sprinter for the stage. Buitrago only lost 2:22, and he was down for quite a long time. So... And he looked bad. So, hopefully he and Kelderman are okay. They're important riders, particularly for their teams on GC or just for Buitrago winning a stage. So, shame to see that. And also, really shame, I thought Coquard had a really, really, really good chance today. So, that was a shame. But we're coming to the finish in Tarragona. It's technical. It's wide. And then all of a sudden, we see Groves is a bit deeper. We have Ivo Oliveira move in front of Moran Vandenberg, is holding good position. Aular, who's the Venezuelan national champion.
Yes.
Is he?
Correct.
He's in a nice jersey, easy to spot, actually. for Caja Rural. He held really, really good position. I was super impressed by him, actually, and always in the first 5 wheels. And then Milano's third wheel, and I'm like, ooh, this is going to all depend on timing because it's straight, 500 meters to go, dipper goes up a little bit. Oliveira is starting his lead out, and I'm like, that's probably 150 meters too early. But Milano could have Marijn van den Berg lead him out of the last corner and then win over the top of him. Unfortunately, I think for Milano, they get to that final corner, Oliveira's pulled off, van den Berg's coming to that corner super hot, as he should be.
After fighting with Oliveira just before the corner, right? Wasn't he bumping him a bit with the shoulder?
I think that was to push Milano off Oliveira's wheel. I can't remember. But yeah, he was super aggressive with one of the UAE riders. And yeah, he came in super hot, maybe because he was too busy fighting for space. But also this corner was crazy. So it doubles back on itself. There's then barriers that Marijn van den Berg follows the line of the initial barriers and the apex correctly. And then all of a sudden the barriers come back on him, even though the road is wider. And so the barriers sharpen the end of this corner, like for some, I don't know why. And van den Berg didn't expect it. And he just slides out and crashes. And that allows Groves to kind of slide near Milano's wheel, who at that point decides to launch it.
It's weird with these barriers, right? Because you said it, the road was wider and so forth. And I reckon this is kind of a safety issue because a rider before the stage gets to see in VeloViewer, for example, or in Google Earth, whatever they use in each team, they see the road ahead of them. They see a recon of that. Maybe someone recorded a video for them at the team, whatever.
Yeah, you can't see the barrier placement on VeloViewer.
Exactly. They don't know the barrier placement before the stage, so they got to get lucky that they have someone in front of the race already that passes that point and can get that information to the team, who can then bring that to the rider's attention while the race is going on. So the riders can't be aware of this barrier placement. Marijn van den Berg cannot be aware that these barriers will come in backwards, and he can't be prepared for that. So people saying he came in too hot, it's only because the barriers were placed like this that he came in too hot in the first place.
He was going to make
opinion.
it. Yeah. He if they followed the road, I think he was going to make it. But anyway, Milano launches. He actually has Groves off the wheel. It's a very messy sprint. It's going to be between Groves and Milano with no Coquard here, and with van den Berg having crashed. These are the other two clear quickest guys in this race. And I don't know where the finish is. It's snaking. It's coming back on itself. It's twisting. We see even Garcia Cortina drop his chain. He's completely out of the sprint. And we don't really know. We have no zoomed out shot of where the finish is. All of a sudden, Milano's been sprinting for 12, 15 seconds already, and we see 125 meters to go, and it's uphill. And I'd already called Milano's taking the win. And all of a sudden, Groves is in the wheel, and Groves is coming out of the wheel. Perfect timing from him. Also, you know, resistance in these uphill sprints. He already won in Catalonia. He loves winning in Catalonia, Caden Groves. And he beats Milano, coming over him in the last 20 meters. Perfect timing. Milano, I think the odds didn't reflect how strong he was before the stage, but Groves wins anyway. He was a short favorite and he gets it done. Groves ahead of Milano. Edward turns third. Milan Menton fourth. Dries van Gestel fifth. Orlis Alar sixth. That's a nice result for Caja. A top 10 in a stage is that's good for them. Hugo Page seventh. Lewis Askey eighth. Sean Flynn ninth. And Vendrame, the sprinter who cannot sprint, in 10th. There were initially time gaps based on just the timing. And Remco and Jonas were in the group one, and all the other GC contenders, apart from maybe Vlasov, were put on 4 seconds. But that has since been, according to PCS at least, annulled. And so for people that have lost time on GC, Carthy lost 24 seconds. And that's pretty much it from anyone GC.
Kemna lost time on purpose, maybe? Or by accident?
Uwe Kemna.
31st now in GC, 248 down, 14 positions lost. It was on a minute, I think, yesterday.
Lost a minute 40. That's a weird amount to lose. You maybe want to lose a bit more. Maybe not. Who else might have?
I don't know. I'm thinking it's
the right amount, maybe.
Yeah, because you want to be in the breakaway in the next couple of days, and this is a distance at which a quick step and so forth might allow you on the break, because they might see you as the perfect candidate to give the red jersey to in that way.
Bernal lost 2:35. Bernal looked good yesterday. He was actually went back or paced Geraint Thomas. Quick-Step did a reasonable job with Cataneo and Co keeping Remco safe, and Remco did a good job keeping himself safe too. So really not the biggest stage ever, not the most exciting, but Groves, I think, rewarding Alpesen's decision financially to let Merlier go and not match that Soudal Quick-Step money, because for sure Merlier will be getting paid a lot more than Groves, and Groves has won a lot of World Tour races for them this year. But anything else before we move on to tomorrow's stage, Benji, which is the exact same stage?
Yeah, just when it comes to the sprint, it's interesting because I also thought that Milano was going to make it, because I thought the finish was earlier than it was. And then Groves still had it to come over him. And I reckon Groves is probably the best sprinter in this field regardless. So even on the flat stages, I expect him to be good, but maybe Milano might be a better competition there. So I reckon we're going to see some decent sprints, even though we have a rather...
Who's not here?
Everybody's not here, dude.
Why do they? Because the Vuelta this year...
Gaviria should have been here.
The Vuelta this year actually has... Well, Garcia Cortina was supposed to be the guy today, but he wasn't winning anyway. But the Vuelta has like 5 or 6 like proper sprint stages where there's not some bullshit 2K, 10% wall close to the finish. It's genuine sprint stages, particularly in week 1. So I am surprised. I mean, where's your man Bauhaus? Bauhaus would be cleaning up
He rode the Tour already, so...
Yeah, true.
But yeah, I agree. He would have won a stage in this Vuelta.
I guess they got Govakar here.
Yeah.
He did Deutschland Tour. He's done 56 race days.
And he crashed.
Yeah, I guess Lotto probably might have wanted you in here, but there's a lot of problems with them. We might talk about them in a second. But yeah, tomorrow's stage, 187 Ks, quite long. We won't see the break formation again from Orea to Buriana. We just go further south towards Valencia. And it's the same. There's a Category 2 climb, 11.4 Ks, 4%. It is 54 Ks from the finish and will not do any damage. There is a descent, then another pickup, which is uncategorized, about 30 Ks to go. And then, they go through La Val du Chaux, which is where the stage starts the next day to Havalambre. But then there's an intermediate sprint with 11 Ks to go with bonus seconds apparently, and then a flat sprint, properly flat this time. Today wasn't properly flat, but a flat sprint on the coast. I don't know how technical it is. I'll let Benji say who his favorites are for tomorrow. Robbie Case, I think, will be... I don't know who's the better last man, him or Oliveira.
I reckon Yaz might be a slight... I reckon they're close. I reckon they're really close, and it's also because it's not only about the last man, it's also about the man before that and the man before that. And I reckon they both have solid 3 riders for the sprint. So I'm going to go for Milano this time, because let's switch it up. But when it comes to the bonus second sprint beforehand, I'm curious what that will give for the stage too.
Do you reckon anyone will go for it? Because the break might already be caught by that point.
They will.
Do you reckon the GC guy, are they 6-4-2?
Remco's going to do the Merlier sprint that he did in Catalonia.
Yeah, I mean, maybe.
I would if I was him. Fucking YOLO.
6 seconds is nothing to turn your nose up at, to be honest.
But it is the time 10 kilometers to go where Ghana will be pacing, though. Good luck.
Oh, true, yeah. I'm trying to see. Okay, so we got, I brought up the profile. So we got through the town, they go around the ring road around it with about 5 Ks to go. They enter Buriana. They go around it. Then there's a roundabout, which they probably take the left side of. And then there's a right-hand turn, 2.7 Ks to go, long straight of over a kilometer, nearly 2 kilometers. And then there is a right-hander on the beach, or as they turn onto the beach, with 700 meters to go. So nowhere near as late as today.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm going to go with, I'll go with Milano too. He won the UAE Tour sprint, a similar sprint against Berners. I think the higher speed sprint might suit him. If it was a higher speed sprint today, maybe he wins because he was just on the front so long. But
is there someone that we didn't see today that we aren't thinking about? Are we too recency biased today?
No, because we already thought they were the 2 best sprinters plus Coquard.
That is probably true.
Like, I don't think in a pure flat sprint, all of a sudden, like, isn't a messy uphill sprint where a second tier sprinter is more likely to get lucky?
Yeah.
Is Moran Vandenberg all right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he might be, if he's
I don't know if he's all right. I mean, he's an all right sprinter.
Yeah,
but I don't know
on
if
a
he's
flat
all right.
sprint. Yeah, if he's all right, in both senses of the word, then maybe he can get in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe Ganna takes a flyer on that 700-meter right-hander. Who knows? Might be allowed to. I doubt it. Other news was today Lotto Destiny will be going to Orbea bikes next year.
Yes.
Wouldn't normally mention that sort of news, but they're breaking their Ridley contract. Apparently, under the previous GM Lelong, he negotiated like a lower financial amount during the COVID bike boom for Ridley to pay them, and so they've broken that contract. Plus, they wanted to go on a different brand anyway. So DeLee apparently is happy with it. And there was also some other news about Ewan, I think, in that Ulo article.
Yeah, just in general, the Orbea versus Ridley thingy. The thing about Ridley is that every rumor I hear from around the team, not going to say any specifics there, is that it's just not a very fast bike. And they were trying to work on like a time trial bike,
right,
which is a step forward and so forth. And I reckon they used it at the World Championships, but the team either is unhappy about their financial deal and the equipment, or they're unhappy about the developments of that TT bike, and now they're switching to Orbea.
If I was a mid to low budget team,
yeah,
I would go for a bike brand and tell them, we don't even want a TT bike. Don't even send us one. We don't care.
Yeah.
Because Lotto Destiny and not a TT bike, maybe I'll be wrong. A TT bike is not the difference between Leonard van Eetveld winning a World Tour 1 week race or podiuming one or not. And sort of Intermarché with Cube have had that. I would have in the contract, let me use a different brand's one and just put your colors on it.
It is the difference for an Alex Segar to be able to podium or win or something a U23 World Championship.
Yeah, Segar and in Belgian National Championship. But I would just let them save on the development costs. Yeah, if you're not selling them or you don't care about selling them, because honestly, UCI-specific TT bikes, I'm sure they make Ridley about $0 and they're actually a cost to them. Just let us paint over a white label a competitive bikes who with a good TT bike, and we'll focus on the road bikes and let you focus on them and save you some money. So I don't know why maybe teams should do that more, or bike brands don't want to do the white labeling, which I think is a bit short-sighted because, yeah, if it's not your core business to sell TT bikes. You know, who probably sells TT bikes? Giant? The TT bike is the triathlon market, buys more TT bikes, so...
And I don't know much about the triathlon market, that's for sure.
Giant Cervelo Spare Trek.
Okay.
The big guys. But, yeah, anyway... and also there was word, basically Hulo has said that Caleb Ewan is free to leave. If he gets another team, gets another offer, he's free to leave.
He's on 2 million, mate. No shit, they want him gone.
Yeah, of course. And they said, well, if you don't leave, we're going to put you on the Tour of Guangxi schedule next year. He did, he said that.
Really?
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, the B schedule, but...
The Tour of Guangxi schedule.
That's maybe the C schedule. But yeah, he no Tour de France, no Grand Tour. And I understand it from Hulo's perspective. And now...
Hold on, yeah.
Yeah, depends which way you look at it. He could be like, I'll get an easy world to win, but I'd risk to life and limb, and no one will see it. But his manager, Ewan, came out and said, oh, well, the way Ulo is treating Ewan, other riders will see this, and they will think Lotto Destiny treat their riders badly. What will Arnaud Delis think of this? I think it is, generally speaking, a bad idea to do what Ulo and Lotto Destiny are doing with Ewan, generally speaking.
Yeah.
Because if a rider's unhappy, first of all, keep it private. Second of all, don't, send them to a punishment schedule, etc. Because other riders will see how you're treating them, and then they'll factor that in if they have a bad period in future. And prospective riders will be seeing this too that might think twice about coming to your team. But unfortunately for you and his teammates, saw him quit on them in the Tour de France after Du Bois tried to help him through the time cut. Apparently Ulo, his words, said that his attitude towards his teammates and staff and team before and during the tour weren't that great. So I think the Lotto Destiny guys will not think Hulo is too out of line. Actually, they'll be like, well, fuck, I'm getting paid 80 grand. He wasn't too friendly to me. He left the tour without an injury and he's getting paid 2 million. It's actually Hulo's kind of showing leadership.
Yep, I think so as well. I agree with your take. There's one more thing I want to bring up before we finish off today's podcast. We spoke about Isaac Del Toro, the Mexican dude, the one that ended up winning Avenir in the end, about the fact that Mexico is technically banned from, well, the federation is technically banned in general within cycling.
Yeah.
As in the Mexican Federation. Now, there's actually a story that I found out about today, a pretty fucked up story in my opinion. It's about Andrea Martinez, a female rider that rides for a UCI Continental team, Duelar Chevalmere, which is, I recall, a Belgium team. I should know that by heart because I'm Belgian. But she was going to the Glasgow UCI World Championships IDT, not for the Mexican Federation, but through the Mexican Olympic Committee, because apparently that's like a secondary way to get into the World Championships.
Okay.
So the women's ITT, she was meant to be there. She had to finance everything herself when it comes to the travels. So she sold shit. She ended up taking loans to be able to go to Glasgow, which shout out to journalist Nacho from Marca, who did an in-depth piece on this as well. But she went through that process. She was able to source a TT bike through her team that she's at, her trade team. And after arriving in Glasgow, the Mexican, I think, Olympic Committee or probably Olympic Committee took her off the start list. She arrived and they took her off just before the race.
Why?
She got some explanation about points, but she didn't really understand what the reasoning was. And well, she was sent back home, and on the flight home, she saw Mexican staff sitting in first class. So that's a fucked up story, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a shame to hear things like that. I mean, it's crazy to think that, more riders than you probably realize are self-funding, even going to elite world championships. Yeah. And it's probably particularly prevalent in the women's field as well, unfortunately. So governance issues, I think, were a problem with the Mexican Federation before. Yeah. Not sure if it was them in this occasion, but it is crazy that a rider like Isaac Del Toro is riding for a San Marinese, a registered team that's basically from two ex-Mexican riders, giving a European pathway to some Mexican riders to ride with the Federation ban. So it's a lot more difficult for some countries or riders from some countries to get their chance than others. That's self-evident, I think, when you look at the peloton and its composition every year. Anyway, that's all from us. It's another sprint stage tomorrow. Probably Groves, Milano, Cockard, the main actors. And we'll see you with a recap of that then. Ciao.